Okay, let's continue looking at the board, and in this video we're going to start making a pawn. So here we are, we have our board. Now for a new part we're going to go File, New, and you see they have Part, Assembly, or Drawing. These are your basics. And this could get filled up with different little icons that have customized options and document properties. So, but we'll just go with the standard part. And we've got a blank screen. Let's do a sketch on the front plane. And I'm gonna design a pawn. Now, I'm gonna start off with this rectangle, and this is really just gonna be maybe a reference of size and dimension for me. So I know that the slot that the piece will fit into the board is 1/4 inch in diameter. Now I'm going to do 0.125. I could also do 1/4 inch divided by 2, either way. And you see it's 0.13, and you go, well, what the heck? Well, you just go up to your options, your units, 3 decimal places, okay? There we go, 0.125. And it was 0.125 earlier, just when it just rounded, so. Alright. So if we're 1/8 of an inch at the base, and the reason I did 1/8 of an inch is we're going to revolve something. We're going to revolve, I'm going to draw half of the pawn and then revolve it around this axis right here. So my overall height, recall that the hole, the slot, goes down into the board 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch of this will be buried in the board. And I think, I don't know yet, but let's see what 3/4 of an inch overall height looks like later on. We'll drag this into the board, and it looks a little unproportional right now, but remember my width is going to be double, so let's just go with this and we can come back and change it later. Okay, so a pawn, and SolidWorks is kind of nice because, you know, they call it sketch for a reason. You can kind of just, well, you can pretty much sketch out what you're doing in real time rather than just having a sketch notebook and importing a JPEG and drawing it off that. So I want to find the midpoint of that right there, and so I'm going to split that into split entities, and I'm going to split it. Click on the entity, click on the sketch entity to split. Well, it's that. The segment has a midpoint or equal length relation. Splitting the segment will delete the relation. Do you want to continue? Yes. Now my problem with that function is that it split it not at the midpoint, which is where I want it. So let's just undo that. And there's a couple of things I can do. I can delete this line I made, and then I can split this entity right at the midpoint. But let's do this. Let's trim this line, and then let's draw a new line. Okay, perfect, with its own midpoint right here. So I got a line here, a line here. Perfect. Okay. So that's not really what I want. That'll take us out too far. So I'm just gonna kind of do the same exact thing I just did. Again. Okay, let's see where this takes us. So that'd be the traditional sort of head of the pawn. And this base at some point I want to bring in. So let's maybe get I need to define where that 1/4 inch is, so it's going to be buried. So I need 1/3 of this line is what I need. Okay, or I can offset this line 1/4 of an inch, and that's what I'll do. 0.25. Do not select the chain, and it shows me the arrow that it's going to do it in, and it went the other way. Great. Alright, let's try that again. Offset, reverse, done. Okay, so right now I can tell that this head is just way too big, and I didn't really understand that before. So let's just drag it down to what we see fit. Alright, that looks reasonable. And in fact, how about I hold shift, select this line, and give it tangency. There we go. That's a nice clean. So the outside, this is going to be tangent to the cylinder and the board. I kind of like that geometry. Okay, we need to start bringing down the neck of this piece. So let's just see what this looks like. Now we're going to do a sketch fillet, which means I'm going to introduce an arc with a radius, and hold on, cannot fillet to a closed sketch entity. Alright, so before we do that, let's trim this circle. We know we don't need that half. We're not going to need that. There we go. Now let's go back to sketch fillet. Let's click this and this, and it introduces that yellow geometry, and we can adjust that radius to whatever we like. Let's see what that looks like. And it gave it a dimension right here, that R.1. So I can, I can come back and change that to whatever I like. Okay, so that's nice. Okay, so now this neck has to come back out and meet the base in sort of the same way. So what I'm going to do is draw a 3-point arc. I'm going to say it's going to start there, it's going to end there, and then I'll define the radius. And I can do it just by looking like that, and I can also come in and do a smart dimension and give it a nice round number. So there we go. Okay, that's starting to look like an arc, or a pawn. But we can also add some nice accentuation here, where the neck meets the head, where the neck meets the body, and where the body meets the foot. We can add, I don't know what those are really called. I know there's a good name for them. But what we can do is add that, and this will start to make sense here in a second. And we'll do another one here of equal diameter, and one here. We'll come back in and dimension all of these. And let's just see what this, let's start trimming everything away that we're not going to want, which will be that, that, that. Okay, keep that, that, that. Okay, so this could very well be half of our pawn, if we like it. So let's just check mark that. I can keep this line in here. It won't affect anything. I could delete it, I could keep it. In fact, I can keep a lot of horizontal lines in here, and you'll see why they'll show up as lines on our full revolve. So let's just stay in the sketch, and let's go to Features, Revolved, Boss Base. do the selected contours, and you see the regions here. Okay, I'm going to revolve both of these. But you have to select the axis, and sometimes it gives you, if I had some geometry selected, it auto inputs that as the default axis. So just click on that axis and boom, that is now our axis. Okay, and let's just see what we got here. Hey, all right, not bad. And these are, I guess, ribs. This is what I was trying to, it's some ornament, some decoration, these ribs. Don't know how well that'll come out in the 3D printing. And I don't know if I like now the head being as large as the foot. So perhaps we go back into our sketch and make that a smaller head. So let's just right click on, you notice where I found that sketch. It's still accessible. It's under the Revolve, right click, edit sketch. And I could try and do this and that, but something nice here in SolidWorks, I right click and I see this button, I go normal to. I want to make my view plane normal to the sketch plane. Perfect. So now I'm right at a perpendicular view. Now this, I don't think we dimensioned this. We just said, hey, make it tangent. And the problem is here now is that if I try to give this a different radius, it's no longer going to be tangent to a certain line. So I'm going to hit cancel out of all of this, and I'm going to delete this tangency. Just select it and press delete. See what else we got. Select it and press. Actually, I want to keep that tangency because it's saying it's tangent to this arc right here. So let's just see now if I can dimension that line arc. Okay. 0.125. Let's try half of that, a 16th. So I'll just go divided by 2. Well, that is not going to work. That might look interesting, but that's not going to work. So let's try, instead of the 7/8, let's try 3/16. No, that's making it bigger. Don't want to do that. Let's go back to an 1/8. Oh, now see what happened here? This is not good. When I started changing this dimension, it altered other geometry, and now I can't get back to where I was. So if we're lucky, we can undo this, because there we go. Usually undo works within the context of a sketch. So we really got lucky there. Let's exit this. And now let's go back into the sketch. Edit that. Normal to. Let's just draw a whole new arc. That way I'm not messing up too much of the geometries. And in fact, let's really give this a true neck. Let's see what this looks like. Bring that up. Bring that up. Trim that off. Add in another rib, for lack of a better word. Trim it out. Exit the sketch. Okay. That's something. I think I can live with that for now. But we don't really truly know if we're happy about this until, let's go ahead and make an assembly and pull it in there. So first of all, we need to save this part. And we'll call this pawn. And now I'm going to hit Control Tab to bring up the board. Control Tab. That's the best shortcut on SolidWorks is Control Tab. And now what we're going to do is go to File, Make Assembly from Part. Okay? And this is just your template. Your default assembly is fine. Okay? Now, I can left mouse click and it'll place the part. The other thing I could have done is just hit green check mark. It would have also placed the part. So now this is new for us. This is an assembly, and I can't really, as it stands right now, it's not like I'm able to just edit this part, okay? I can right click on this and go edit part, but it says the assembly must be saved to perform this command, so we'll just go and save and continue. Now for the assembly, I can call it assembly, and I'll hit save, and it saves it as an assembly file. Okay, so now I can edit this component. So if I wanted to go in and, you know, change the fillet, I can. I'm not going to do any of that right now. This will make more. We will do some of this once I get some pieces in. So let's go ahead and bring in our piece. I'm going to go to Insert Components. I'm going to hit the little drop down, Insert Components. And anything I have open shows up right over here. And this is really nice. That way I don't have to go searching on my computer. And so I'll go, I want the pawn. And I'm going to go green check mark. And I don't, oh, there it is. It's right there. Now, with assembly mode, so that brought that in as fixed, and you're thinking, what the heck, I can't move it anywhere, right? What good is this? And I can't move that either. Well, what we're going to do is right click and go to float. And now I can move it. And that's really important because you do want to be able to fix some things sometimes. So I can right click and I go to fix, and now I can't move it. But we definitely want to be able to move this. Go to float. Okay, now you can see how it's not really easy to get, oh, that piece exactly where you want it. So mating. Mating is what assemblies are all about. So I've got nothing selected. I click on mate. And now I click on two entities that I want to mate. Well, I want that to be concentrically mated to, let's put it right here, to that. And you see it hovered over and it says, is this what you want? And you go, yep. Now, next, as if this piece is inserted into the board, I'm going to mate that surface, and I'm going to mate it coincidentally to the bottom here. And it'll zoom down, and I click OK. And then I get out of the mate screen. And now I can't move it, you know, I can't move it because it's fully defined. So if I wanted to move it, I'd have to come back in here and find the mate. Let's say if I wanted to move it up, down, I would suppress that mate, and now I could move it. It'll stay concentric because that other mate is alive. Okay, so that's interesting. But we're going to go back in here and unsuppress. Okay, there we go. Now I can look at this board and see if I'm happy with the way that pawn looks, the overall height. It's not bad. I think that I would like to see the foot extend up above the board a little bit to give it a pronounced foot. Right now the foot really doesn't exist. The base goes straight into the board. So what we'll do is just Control Tab. Oh, that took me to the board. Let's get to the part. And so I want to bring this lip up a little bit. So let's get back into the sketch. Let's get normal to the sketch. And we'll just bring this up so it's detecting vertical, and then that yellow box shows up. I definitely want that to be vertical. And then now it automatically gives me these perpendicular lines. So now I'm horizontal, and coincident with that, I'll hit enter, and we're done. Let's dimension this so it's a relatively friendly number. Let's see what that gives us. I'm going to click OK. Now, I don't want this abrupt finish here. Imagine if I trimmed all this, what it would look like. So I'm going to take that point see what we have here. That point and shift that point. Let's see what happens if I go merge. All the dimensions between the 2 points to be merged will be lost. Let's see what happens. I'll go yes. The points cannot be merged. Let's just undo that. Okay. Let's draw another 3-point arc and with the same radius, but now I'm connecting 2 different points. And let's dimension that as 0.25. Good. That changed some overall geometry at other places. I don't know if I like that. So what we need to start doing in here is dimensioning other parts here so that when I change the foot, these other things are not going to change. It doesn't take much. But what we can do here is defining some of these geometries so that they don't alter. That's all we need to do. So now, if I change this to 0.25, okay, see, it just changed this. That's fine. It didn't change any of this up there. Let's undo that again. We need to dimension the length of this line so it won't change. Okay, now let's see if I can go in 0.25. It brought everything down. Okay, undo that again. Let's dimension some verticals so that it says, hey, that has to stay right there. This needs to stay at this height. Let's try it again. And it still wants to bring this down. So, this is there. Okay, we're getting there. And finally, that is there. See what we got. 0.25. Hey, alright, we did it. So, let's just get out of Smart Dimension and delete this old arc. And should just be able to exit and see what we got. Okay, that's fine. You notice this gap here? All we need to go in now is, this is going to be new for us, we're actually going to edit the feature. Right click, because something's wrong with that revolve. Edit the feature. And you see it has those 2 old regions, but I created this new region. And so now it's not selected. So I just left click into selected contours, come over here, get that region that I just added, green check mark. And what I will do, and this will be interesting, is Control Tab over to the assembly. Would you like to rebuild the assembly now? Yes, rebuilding, and look, there it is. Cool. I feel better about that. Somewhat pronounced. So we're going to live with that for now. I will probably change this as time comes, but you can see where if I take from the foot to the body to the neck, I have a really good platform now that I could just change the overall height in the head, and this can become the base for the rook, the knight, the bishop, the king, and the queen. And that's really what I'm going for, is to have some commonality between the pieces with the head and the overall height differentiating the actual piece. So, we learned a lot today about making an assembly. We got into mating, editing features, editing sketches, and on the next session we'll move forward with filling out the rest of these pawns, giving them different colors, and start making another piece, like a rook will be our next one. So anyway, save our part, and I'll see you next time.